Hello, dear students. This is Professor Dr. Zia Ahmed. You know very well that we are on lectures, online lectures on classical poetry from University of Southern Punjab in connection with the ODL and online lectures. Today, we are going to start with the new poet, and that is going to be John Milton. John Milton is also one of the classical poets. And he is also very popular among the English people also, among the non-English people also. He has been read widely here and there all over the world. So in that way, he's got a very good place and space in the world of literature. We need to know 3 to 4 significant things about John Milton. The very first thing in this regard would be that he was a Puritan. Now, this term needs to be understood that by being Puritan, what does it mean? I think most of you may be knowing that Christians also have religious sections like ours. They have religious sections. One of them is Protestant section, and the other one is Catholic section. And among these two, the Puritan was not a particular section, but it was, as the name goes to suggest, to purify the religion. And Milton was going to be one of the members of that party. And when he was very much active in his life, as a poet also, as a person also, he was working as a secretary as well, Latin secretary as well to the government. So at that time, he was also one of these people. He thought of the pure religion and pure kind of things in the religion. So in this way, this type of attitude can be found in his poetry as well. And the second thing that we should discuss about John Milton is that in the later part of his life, he got blind, and in his blindness also, he continued to write the poems, the very long poems he continued to write. And it means that it was a passion in him, it was a kind of struggle in him, it was a kind of emotion which was so strong for the sake of poetry that he continued to serve his country, serve his people through his poetry. And the third thing that we should know is why do we call him a classical poet? It is because of his poetic style. And that poetic style is originally very much classic because he goes to write in the epic style. Now, dear students, you also need to know what is this epic thing. It's a very grand narrative expressed in a very grand style, and the events and the words and the things which are happening inside that poem, it is also going to be on a grand scale. The length of the poem can be very great, very long, and it is written in the fashion of Virgil and Homer, the Greek poets also. So in this way, he is classical. He's got the grand style also. And one thing more, by the way, I should point out that if someone asks what is English language, and most of the time the English people would reply, this is the language of Shakespeare and that of Milton. So now you can understand very well how significant the contributions of John Milton can be, that he not only proceeded with writing of the poetry, but also gave a very significant style, which is called grand style, but also introduced number of changes in the whole of the language system of English language. The beginning poems which became very famous are L'Allegro and Il Penseroso, along with Lycidas. You know, Lycidas is a type of elegy, which in Urdu we call Marsiya. So he sang this elegy at the time of death of one of his friends. So in this way, John Milton has the very significant space. You know, he has been taking part in the type of politics as well. He wanted to liberate his country from the dictatorial rules and wanted that some democratic policy should be adopted, but it couldn't happen. The kingship was again restored in the very age, and all his ideas were once again gone down. And now let us talk what is in our syllabus, where we shall be reading, and from there also some of the characteristics of John Milton can be captured. His most famous poem is going to be Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained as well as a sequel. But in this case, Paradise Lost is a very long poem. That is why it's an epic poem. And it has got 12 books. Out of these 12 books in our syllabus, only book 1, selected parts of book 1 and selected parts of book 9 are included. Today we shall be talking about the starting point of book 1. But so far in this lecture, you will have an introduction to Paradise Lost as well. First thing that we should understand about Paradise Lost, it is about the main theme of the Paradise Lost, the things that we read. It is about the biblical story in which man's first disobedience and fall of Adam and Eve has been talked about. man's first disobedience and fall of Adam and Eve. I think every one of us is familiar with the Quranic as well as the biblical story that God created human being and gave him the name Adam, and Satan, who became against this, who thought that Adam is given superiority to him, and that is why he became angry and he objected to the creation of Adam. At this, God also became angry. This is a type of story, and later on, after some time, Adam made a little disobedience, and as a result, he was thrown in this world, on this earth, and that is why all of us are here, the children of Adam and Eve. Eve was a female and Adam was a male. Both these people were thrown on the earth because of their little disobedience to God. No, this was not that much significant because Adam and Eve could beg forgiveness from God and could back into heaven. God is merciful and he would have forgiven. But the thing which makes it important is the statement of Satan. Satan became a party there and he tried to object to the systems of God. And by saying all this, he said that he will not obey God. And as a result, God also threw him into hell. But he did not kill him, but he did destroy him. If he wanted, he could do so. Because of this facility, Satan thought that he's also very powerful. And that is why he started to think on the lines that he will be dissuading, he will be convincing the human beings not to obey God, but to follow him, rather become his party. And in this way, the story comes forward to us that this is something which happened in heavens, and then how Adam and Eve came to the earth, and how Satan was sent to the hell, and all this kind of story goes on. And Milton is there to see with one point all this story, that to justify the ways of God towards men. That is one of the basic idea. First the disobedience theory and the story, and ultimately he talks about the justifying of the ways of God towards men. According to him, when we try to interpret this line, why does Milton say so, that he was writing the poem to justify the ways of God towards men? He wants to say that God is never doing injustice. It is all the time, everything, whatever God does with this word is full of justice. It means that whatever happened in heaven, that was dealt with in a justifying way. A type of punishment also comes when some wrong is done. The wrong was little on the part of Adam and Eve, but it was very big on the part of Satan. So both were punished in a very different way. So good is to be rewarded and bad is to be punished. This is the system of the whole of the universe. And that is why even if we are in pain, even if we are troubled because of our situations, we cannot blame God that he has done something bad with us. Rather, we have to say that whatever God is doing, he's doing right. So that is the kind of message which Milton tries to portray through his book, Paradise Lost, Book 1. When I say Book 1, it is characterized with number of things. The very first thing which the students should always keep in mind is that there is a muse in it. And when Milton starts his poem, he begs the help of muse. Now we need to understand, in the later part of the lecture, we should more understand about the muse. But right now, it is an imagined god or the goddess of poetry from whom Milton wants to take help in order to start his poetry. He does this in the fashion of the epics of the Greek people, because Virgil and Homer also invoked the muse to help them, because according to Milton, according to Virgil and Homer also, writing an epic is a very huge task, is a very big business. It cannot be ended, it cannot be finished in a very quick way. So that is why the help is sought. Milton has done so just exactly in the fashion of the Greek poets like Virgil and Homer, and that is why this Paradise Lost is an epic. The second thing which the students should always keep in mind is about this book, Paradise Lost, is that there you will be able to see all the characteristics of an epic. And one of the characteristics of the epic is that there will be similes and metaphors. The similes will not be of a small size, as we most of the time give the examples in literature that something was as hard as a stone. So this type of simile may be there. But the similes and the examples and the imagery is on a very, very higher scale, very, very bigger scale. The largeness of the similes, they suit to the whole poem, because the poem is going to express something which is very large. The theme is very large, which concerns not only one home, one city, one country, or one word. It concerns about the whole cosmos, and that is why the largeness is very difficult, and therefore Milton seeks the help of the muse also. Milton goes forward in order to choose those similes which are really something very astonishingly big. I will be presenting to you some of the similes when we go on with the reading of this poem. Right now, you should keep this thing in his mind. And the third thing which students should always keep in mind are the speeches of Saturn. There are 7 speeches of Saturn in book 1, and these speeches, in these speeches, Saturn speaks of his mind. He repeats about the characteristics of God also. He repeats about his characteristics also, and tries to create a kind of balance in which he fails. Most of the time he fails, but he brags a lot that he is this and that. Now, in all these speeches, one theme is quite common, that raising a voice against a power is probably thought to be a hero, is probably thought to be something great, and that is why the Saturn is trying to raise his voice as well. But in this world, in this earth, maybe it's possible, but it cannot be taken something great in the sense of this whole system of God, where the concept of Jannah and concept of dozakh, all these things are there. We cannot put this kind of thing there. But most of the people relate that when Saturn talks about such kind of dictatorialness, and he talks about the liberal democratic behavior, it is actually the country situation, English country situation of Milton. England, for example, there he thought, when he was politically active, he thought that the ruling class or the ruling people are going to be dictatorial, and raising up the voice against them would be good. Some people try to relate this thing with that. As Milton's Paradise Lost is also considered his autobiography as well, that means his life history somehow is available in this poem also. So the ideology of Milton, how the politics of a country should run, probably this is also one of the themes in that whole of the story. So this poem has, like John Donne, carries 2 significant strains. One strain is religious, and other strain is secular. By secular, I mean worldly, mundane. When I say secular, it is secular because there is something, about the whole religions, maybe a Christianity or a Jewishship or the Muslims. We have the same story in our holy books. What happened in heaven, how Adam was created, and what happened to Saturn later on, and how we as human beings are struggling to go back to heaven. So this story is quite common. Repeating that story again and again, it's going to be religious. But then relating the themes with the Milton's personal life as well as the political history of that time, or the overall history of England, that will make it secular as well. And lastly, the thing which the students should always keep in mind is that this whole poem is a classical poem. But when you read this poem, there are a number of things which defy, challenge the norms and the rules of classicism also. For example, for the sake of classicism, it should not be 100% imaginative. Somewhere the things should exist in reality about which the poet is writing. But in case of Paradise Lost, for example, none of us has seen where is heaven, none of us has seen where is hell. So that is why it is the kind of information we get from the books, and that information creates imagination that this kind of hell will be there, this kind of heaven will be there. Otherwise, we don't have such things. So in this way, the poem is denying the rule of reality of the world. It can be considered reality from the books because it has been deduced, otherwise it's not. So many other things are there which challenge the rules of classicism. So therefore, this poem of John Milton is not only classical, but it carries some of the romantic streams as well. So dear students, with this we end our today's lecture. In the next lecture, I shall be introducing the text of the first page of this whole system, whatever we are doing. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.